Hello everyone. First of all, we would like to thank the organizers for holding up such a huge and internationally significant conference, that too in such a difficult time. Now moving on, the title of our research paper is Role of Error in Teaching and Learning of Measurement, collaboratively written by two PhD students, myself Jeenat Rahman and my colleague Ishan Santra, doing PhD from Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, located in Mumbai, India. Now starting with the research motivation. Okay, here we are trying to pedagogize a socially very important knowledge of length measurement. Why is it socially important? Is because it is found to be historically significant even in archaeological artifacts and evidences. It acts as a mediator in language too. Again, length measurement is central to learning all other measurement topics, thus inspiring the need to pedagogize length measurement. Also, it is rooted in our everyday social practices and widely present in our everyday communication, thus holding a special place within the curriculum. But how the present curriculum handles length measurement? Review studies have reported students' low performance in length measurement. Also, there are other studies that reports race, socioeconomic status, and gender-related achievement gaps in students' length measurement. These studies led us to ponder over the following research questions. Is that a problem in pedagogy? Is that a problem in the assessment of length measurement? Or is that a problem in defining what length measurement is? So now I pass it on to Ishan to elaborate it further.
Thank you, Jina. So now I spend a little time on the literature review part of our paper and how we as researchers positioned ourselves with respect to the literature review and the critique of it. So the existing literature on research of length measurement learning, it varies over a long spectrum of aspects, and we mention only a few of them. So there are studies on students' understanding of the basic concepts of measurement, studies on the mathematics of measurement itself, studies on the pedagogical aspects of length measurement, studies on how to use computational technologies, computational thinking, and model-based reasoning in teaching and learning of length measurement. And there are studies where researchers and pedagogues and facilitators are looking at length measurement learning from social perspectives, like the study of Lipka et al. From 2003, where Lipka and her colleagues, they worked towards bridging out of school socioculturally rooted ways of measuring things with the ways in Western mathematics. And as Jinath already mentioned, there are studies reporting and analyzing achievement gaps related to social attributes like race, socioeconomic status, and gender-related things. However, we found that these studies majorly operate under a certain view on learning, which is broadly put, learning as acquisition. And for them, a critical benchmark of learning is bridging these achievement gaps. And here we situate our critique. We critique this notion of achievement gaps, borrowing mostly from the famous mathematics education researcher Russell Gutierrez. She talks about how mathematics education as a system is geared toward the paradigm of deficit notion of a child learner. She talked about how the majority of the mathematics education research community, they are oriented toward what she calls gap gauging fetish, and how this gearing towards this particular gap gauging fetish affects their research designing and goals as well. And she talked about how these two systems inform each other and further reinforce and reify the deficit notion of a child. And that leads to the failure of the social justice concerns and the project of inclusion as well. Here, we properly and prominently want to ask the listeners to attend to one of the prominent points, here prominently comes into play the positioning of us or the researchers. So taking cues from Gutierrez, our epistemological commitment towards social justice made us critically reflect on these normative tendencies of situating the problem merely on certain deficiencies, like the deficiency in pedagogy or the deficiency in the assessment design, etc. Rather, we move toward a question much more general and much more fundamental in nature, whether the problem itself lies at the more general level of defining and conceptualizing what mathematical learning is. So from here on, we go to the theoretical framework, and we found that Anasford's theory of cognition that made perfect sense in order for us to resolve the criticality we were having. So in Anasford's cognition theory that she put forward in 2007 and 2008, in her paper in 2007 and in her book in 2008, this theory of cognition is largely a theory of learning, and that broadly falls under the participationist view of learning, where individuals gradually individualize community pattern processes, and in turn, their individual traits give feedback to the community practices as well. And learning under this particular learning theory is gradually individualizing and endorsing new narratives, which happens through a collaborative change in communication and cognition. That is why Anasford talks about she terms her theory as cognition, which, if presented from an etymological point of view, which means it's an interconnectedness between communication, which happens at a community level, and cognition or thinking, which happens at the individual level. Now we move to the implications of this theory towards mathematical learning. So we already mentioned that learning is essentially endorsing new narratives. In case of mathematical learning, narratives are nothing but mathematical discourses endemic to mathematics as a knowledge body. And Anasford wants to situate this knowledge body as a system which she terms autopoietic. So autopoietic system means a system that contains the objects of talk along with the talk itself, and the system grows incessantly from within with incorporating new objects and adding them one after another inside the system itself. Like, say, for example, if we talk about a particular theorem in mathematics, the theorem is a narrative about objects which are mathematical in nature, and when the theorem is established or endorsed by the community of people, that is the community of mathematicians, then further one can use that theorem as an object itself. So then we call it an object which is discursive in nature, or a discursive object. And in this theoretical framework, mathematics learning then is individualizing and endorsing more and more advanced mathematical discourses. Now we come to the implications for mathematics teaching if looked at from cognition theory. So a facilitator who is trying to teach mathematics, the markers of learning should be transformations in the students' community discourse, whether the students are gradually endorsing new discourses through these changes. So that is the transformation a teacher or a facilitator should look for. And Anasford says that these transformations necessarily happen through resolutions of cognitive conflict. So these are conflict majorly discursive in nature. They refer to a situation in which communication is hindered by the fact that different discussions are acting according to different meta rules, and thus possibly using the same words in differing ways. So these are the cognitive conflicts when a learner is trying to learn something. And the facilitator's job is to help the learner or scaffold her pedagogy in a way that leads to the resolution of these conflicts. Now we come to our study, and I move it over to Gina to talk about the study itself. And we claim that this study corroborates the theory of cognition.
Right. So I will elaborate the methodology part now. So we have used teaching design experiment as a methodology to try and adopt cognitive theory within our teaching. The study was done through a teaching camp held for 6 days with 15 volunteer students from 6th grade aged around 11 to 12 years, of which 11 to 13 of them came every day in our institute. Their school math textbook was also analyzed beforehand. Lessons were designed in consultation with other researchers from the institute. The lessons were video recorded with consent from the students and their parents. There was also feedback and discussion session with fellow researchers, and the researcher also went back to the video data every day to improvise the next day lesson. As a data, we have picked up a chunk of the transcribed video data that is purposefully chosen and qualitatively analyzed line by line to infer certain phenomena. In this study, we present an episode where a student measure a tabletop in groups. Okay. And there was 2 outcomes of the measurement. One was 53 centimeter and the other one was 53.2 centimeter. And here the facilitator, who is also the first author, tried to engage students in conversation to resolve this anomaly. Can we move to the transcript? Yeah. So this is the transcript of the interaction. And as you can see, we have highlighted the 3 major explanations that came up in the episode to explain why there are 2 different responses. So the team with 53 centimeter, so one explanation was the team with 53 centimeter as outcome did not measure completely. They stopped before reaching the end point. The second team was accurate in their measurement, who measured 53.2 centimeter as the outcome. Then there was second explanation which says the 2 teams use scales with differing millimeter markings, like they have 2 different scales or they have like different space in their millimeter, something like that. The third explanation was the team with 53.2 centimeter as outcome was correct. The other team also measured correctly, but to remember the data, they estimated the number 53.2 to the nearest integer, that is 53, to just keep the record. So these are the 3 major explanations, and now Ishan will further elaborate on the analysis.
So in this part, we present our analysis of the data and make a few claims here. So we found the students were operating under their already endorsed narrative, that there is something as accurate measurement somewhere, which one of the 2 teams always measured accurately and the other one made some error or did some mistake. The already endorsed narrative of the students, we claim to have been reinforced by the textbooks dealing with this concept of measurement. So we claim, and we analyzed it in our paper as well. We invite our colleagues to read our paper properly, and we claim that we analyze the textbook, and we claim that the textbook, the way the textbook deal with the concept of measurement in particular, and its general failure towards conceptualizing uncertainty and variability inherent in the mathematical act of measuring, actually reinforced this student's notion about what error is. And that is why error in measurement and mistakes done while performing the mathematical act of measurement, these 2 notions get conflated. And we claim that the main reason behind this conflation is how the textbook actually deals with this thing, with this particular learning aspect. And another important thing is that the notion of precision is lost from the discourse that is present there in the textbook. The other interesting thing that we found out was that one of the students, he explained something that actually had a potential anchor for the facilitator, that is me, to make cognitive conflict apparent, but I missed that opportunity during that period. So yeah, and the final claim that we made in that paper is that in order to properly teach and learn length measurement, new meta rules has to be endorsed, and we list it up here, the minimal list of meta rules that are to be endorsed in order to enhance length measurement, or in order to make the students learn length measurement. So one is that millimeter is a discursive object. This term discursive object is taken from Husserl, and that incessant creation of these discursive objects called standardized units is the only way to reach the precision required in a particular context. The other meta rule that is to be endorsed is that error is inevitable, even though one can minimize its range by attending to particular issues related to the measurement process and measuring means. It is interesting that the students actually knew that there are certain sources of error, but they thought rather the narrative they were operating under, in that narrative, it was felt that if we kind of change our means, or if we use the means properly, then the error will be omitted totally. That was the, I would say, less richer narrative, and it needed to be overhauled by this new narrative that error is inevitable. And we also claim that learning environment must be ensured to be discourse oriented, and epistemic agency of the learners has to be restored in order to make the learning happen inside the classroom or in any learning environment, if looked at from this particular theory of cognition. Now we try to go ahead with the findings and the analysis and claims that we have from this paper, and we point out three particular points. We felt the need of further analyzing textbooks with different mathematical topics. We felt that moving beyond gap gauging fetish is not only a matter of reconceptualization of the mathematical learning theory. This fetish is a product of the social disorder, how society functions fundamentally on an exclusionary premise induced by the political economy, that we can say the capitalism. And taking a radically different learning theory is only a strong means to call out certain loopholes in the educational design. So it is a platform to start from. And changing the design fundamentally at a functional level depends mostly on political movements. Acting as radical pedagogues merely opens up for us rogue future terrains. We try to talk about the role of assessment and limits of addressing it as well. So we say that assessment plays a crucial role in reinforcing hierarchies based on knowledge competencies. Whereas learning is a much more complex process than to be reductively measured to standardized dices or standardized markers. In the context of mathematical learning of length measurement, we are good to look for the change in the community communications or the discourses in order to make sense of the learning trajectory. Therefore, it follows that a fundamental overhaul of the assessment philosophy, of the existing assessment philosophy, and therefore the methods as well, is mandatory. This again brings us back to the earlier point, whether this argument for changing assessment on the mere basis of a learning theory whether it's sufficient, because assessment is again a product of the social disorder that we mentioned earlier. So in any way, we need to look for changes at the more structural and fundamental level. This is the list of references. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.